Hi guys, it's Alan and welcome back to the Library of Alexandria. So today guys, I'm going to talk about Gardens of the Moon. I've already reviewed it, so today instead I'll be talking about the 5 best characters from Gardens of the Moon and then the 5 worst characters from Gardens of the Moon. All of the Malazan books have so many characters, so it's kind of hard to narrow it down. Gardens of the Moon especially is difficult to narrow down the characters I like to a top 5, mostly because almost all of them appear in later books, and it's very difficult to separate later knowledge from current knowledge, but I've done my best and I've whittled it down to the 5 best and the 5 worst characters from Gardens of the Moon. Now, this is in no way objective. This is completely subjective, the 5 characters that I like and the 5 that I hated the most. So if your list looks nothing like my list, that's fine, and we can have a healthy debate about it down in the comments. It should be said that this list will contain spoilers, as it's almost impossible to talk about the things I like about these characters without talking about the things that they did. So if you have not read Gardens of the Moon, be prepared to have some stuff spoiled. So let's go ahead and start with the top 5 characters from Gardens of the Moon. In the number 5 slot, we have ANOMANDER-RAKE. Now, I am not a huge Rake fan, but I would feel very remiss as not to include him on here, because if there was a character that Erikson wants to embody like cool or awesomeness, it's probably gonna be ANOMANDER-RAKE. Now, I picture Rake as kind of a cross between Drizzt-Do'Urden and Sephiroth, because he's one of the Tista-Andi, which is, you know, the Dark Elves, and he's got dark skin and stark white hair, and he's got an enormous sword, and he's ageless and brooding, and it's really everything that people really dream of in their awesome characters. And the sword is amazing. Dragnapur alone puts him on this list. The sword kills people and takes their souls inside of it, where they then join in dragging the huge wagon, underneath which is a gate, away from the chaos that's coming towards them in the sword. It's just a whole bizarre plot that you don't get to see revisited till much later, but Dragnapur alone makes ANOMANDER-RAKE worthy of this list. In the book, he pretty much saves Darujhistan. He's the ultimate deus ex machina. He can also turn into a freaking dragon. I mean, that's awesome. So I'm not an enormous Rake fan, but that's a cool character, so he gets to be here on the number 5 slot. The number 4 slot, however, is going to go to Tool, or Onos Tulan, our Talanamas friend. So it's from Tool's perspective that we learn a lot about what the Talanamas did under Kalinvad. He's actually our way in to learning about the Talan Imas and their huge wars with the Jagged. So he's crucial in getting that history and context for these ageless races in this very first book. So he's kind of a linchpin. Without him, we'd be even more confused than we are. I like Tool because he's clanless. He can't go join the rest of his clan because he's kind of separated from the ritual with the rest of them, and so he's just kind of a loner. He's clanless and hooks up with Lorne, and together they explore the Gadrobi Hills. And he's like, hey, this is a Jagged Barrow. I'm gonna kill the Jagged, because that's what I do. I kill Jaggeds. He's the slow, dusty voice of reason to Lorne's impulsiveness. When the Darujistanis meet them in the hills, Lorne jumps them, and it's Tool that's kind of like, okay, well, we should stop that. So I always picture Tool really monotone. Some of this might be later knowledge of, I know Tool the character and how he grows and some of the stuff he does, but I liked him in the very first time I read Gardens of the Moon. This awesome undead warrior with this massive flint sword that really can't be beaten. Super cool. And you meet a ton of Talanamas in these books, and Tool may remain my favorite of all of the ones that you meet over the course of the series. In the number 3 slot, we have Lieutenant Ganos Paran. Oh, poor Paran. Man, this guy is put upon in this book. He is just dragged all over creation. I like Paran because he's a noble, and the nobles in this world are known for being kind of useless. there's still some of that purchasing commission stuff that the British military used to do, and so the bridge burners especially don't take kindly to officers because generally they're noble born and think they know better, and so they get shanked. Well, Paran is trying to prove that he is more than just one of the useless nobility, but he's put in charge of the bridge burners, and sure enough, shanked. And then, man, he just has a lot to do in this book. He gets the sword of Opan, kills one of the Hounds of Shadow, frees two of the Hounds of Shadow from Dragnipur, goes inside Dragnipur, deals with Tok and the insane puppet Hairlock, and falls in love with Tattersail, which isn't a super realistic romance. Erikson isn't really good at romance. They're all just like, oh, and oh, but I love you. Oh, I love you too. I've known it since the first time it's a lot of that. So, but I like Paran because he is a fighter. He just perseveres. I've rarely seen someone have worse luck in a novel, and Paran's debut is just that. But he does begrudgingly earn the respect of the bridge burners, and so for that reason alone, he deserves to be on this list. I like him. He's not super powerful either. He's kind of our stand-in where he doesn't really know a ton of what's going on either, and he's not this ultimate power. He's more like a regular guy with, well, I mean, he starts out with normal powers. He still doesn't really know what he's doing. So I like that. He's not epic, but there's a likable quality about him really from even the beginning. So that's why he's my number 3. At the number 2 slot, I'm gonna have to put Shadowthrone. Shadowthrone is kind of my favorite type of character, the plotting, scheming, genius, brilliant, behind-the-scenes villain. I especially like Shadowthrone in Gardens of the Moon because I think, in my opinion, Erikson didn't really know where Shadowthrone was going when he wrote this first book, because I think the Shadowthrone in Gardens of the Moon is different from the one in the later books, and I like this one the best. Very confident, very competent. You know he knows what's going on, that he has plan, unraveling after plan, just on top, just like a 7-layer lasagna filled with plans. And I really enjoy that kind of villain, the one who is thinking a bunch of steps ahead, provided that the payoff makes sense, that it's not like, oh, this was supposed to happen all along, and it just kind of comes out of nowhere. Shadowthrone also commands the Hounds of Shadow, which are huge dogs and are awesome. So he's definitely threatening, got his little assassin, I'm not a huge fan of assassins, but it's got his little assassin friend next to him, Cotillion. But Shadowthrone, I really like Shadowthrone in this book. Very shady, very suspicious, but just a cool character all around. But the number 1 favorite character in Gardens of the Moon, I think, is not a huge surprise to a lot of people. I know a lot of people would have Rake in the number 1 spot just because he exudes awesomeness. But for me, that number 1 slot has to go to Whiskey Jack, Sergeant of the Bridge Burners. He is our everyman, used to be high-ranked in the army, but got busted down by LASEEN, because LASEEN, why would you need competent commanders to fight your battles? I don't know. Why not just put foolish people in the lead and bump your best guys down to sergeant? Who knows? But Whiskey Jack is our everyman. Not super powerful, but he's competent. The soldiers look up to him. His guys are above and beyond everything. He is not gonna lose any more men than he has to. This is why he takes it super personally when TAYSCHRENN and the other wizards and LASEEN was, supposed to wipe out the bridge burners at Pale. Ugh, why? Again, why is that a good idea? He reminds me a lot of Sam Vimes, the leader of the City Watch in Terry Pratchett's City Watch books, because he's the head of a squad, the head of a group of scrappy fighters who are just there to get the job done. I like mercenary bands or city watches or small bands of soldiers like the Bridge Burners. And I think Whiskey Jack just kind of exudes that confidence and competence. You understand why all of his soldiers and High Fist Dujek all all look up to him because we, the reader, we also do. So he's the everyman superhero. Love me some Whiskey Jack, and I'm pretty sure most people agree. And so that's it for my 5 favorite characters from Gardens of the Moon. Let's talk about the 5 worst characters from Gardens of the Moon. Starting in the number 5 slot, we have Topper, the Claw Master. So I have a real problem with assassins in fantasy books. Assassins are always, they're too powerful. They're supposed to be these really, oh, look how amazing I am. They kill people with like one hit until they don't. Assassins are never used to the potential that the author builds up for us. For example, the Claw, which is the new Empress's elite group of assassins. Oh, they kill everyone, and oh, everyone's afraid of them, until they don't. Until they meet the heroes that Erikson can't kill off because he needs them, and all of a sudden the Claw can't do anything. And this is a theme throughout all the freaking Malazan books. The Claw is supposed to be this amazing dread organization of cold-blooded killers, and yet they don't actually ever kill anyone that's worth anything. They kill the red shirts. Well, anyone can kill the red shirts. A level 0 merchant with his bag of gold can kill a red shirt. I just don't like the disparity between how assassins are supposed to be versus how they end up actually being. And so, by default, Topper, the Claw Master, is at the top of this list. He's just dresses, that's his big thing. He dresses in green. His big character description is that he dresses in all green. And he talks like, oh, look at how much better I am than you. Oh, look at, oh, witty comment, quip, quip. They're all like that. Every single member of the Claw in all of the books is like, oh, witty comment, oh, you think you can get me? It's always like that. And Topper does this. So Topper sucks. Done. Moving on. Number 4 on the worst characters in Gardens of the Moon list, we have Empress LASEEN / Surly. Empress LASEEN's probably going to end up on a lot of these worst lists because even if you don't see her in person, she is just the rain cloud looming over the proceedings. She's like a thundercloud that follows everyone around. And my problem with LASEEN is that, unlike Lorne, LASEEN doesn't actually walk that line between well-written female character and a bunch of really bad villain tropes. And Erikson tries to write her out of it, but does not succeed, at least as far as I have read. So LASEEN is a combination of 2 villain tropes and isn't done well in either of them. So first, she's the opposite of the damsel in distress in that she's the, oh, look at me, I'm a female character, and so that I'm not considered a damsel in distress, I have to be amazing and spiky, and I'm so dangerous that everyone is just afraid in my presence. But what that really ends up meaning is that she just doesn't actually have a personality at all. Her personality is dangerous. And that's not interesting at all. And so to try to make her interesting, Erikson tries to make her the ultimate gentleman intelligent villain, where she's got Xanatos Gambit on top of Xanatos Gambit, and everything that happens is really part of her scheme, and we're supposed to believe that she's just got all of these plans in motion because she's just this genius. Well, she's not. Her plans suck, guys. Her plans suck. First of all, in this one, she turns on the bridge burners and has freaking TAYSCHRENN turn on a lot of the mages that were loyal to the Emperor that up to this point haven't turned on her, and has a bunch of the bridge burners killed. Which doesn't make any sense. Whiskey Jack and the bridge burners are loyal to the Empire. Yes, they served Kellanved, but they've given no reason for her to think that they're not on her side. And you see this over and over. Every one of her plans is freaking terrible. It's like she took over the Empire and had no idea how to run it. She's just not an interesting character. She's not really fearsome. She's not this brilliant genius plan master. Her plans suck, guys. And as you read more, you just see more and more how much her plans suck. LASEEN's terrible. Bring back Kellanved. Long live Kellanved. If I had a sign, I'd wave it. Speaking of characters that are the worst and whose motivations make no sense, in the number 3 slot, we have TAYSCHRENN. Now, when you guys read this, you may not hate TAYSCHRENN, the Imperial High Mage. That's fine. If I'm using knowledge of books to come, I don't care. TAYSCHRENN sucks, guys. TAYSCHRENN is the worst. I don't understand anything he does in any book. He kills all the other high mages that are loyal to the Empire. He is constantly doing things because I think he wants to be the only wizard in all of existence. And he also doesn't have a really good personality. He's just supposed to be this really epically powerful guy who doesn't actually do anything. Past the Siege of Pale in the first 30 pages, TAYSCHRENN doesn't do anything but be menacing. I don't like characters that are really powerful but then don't ever use their power, because then that would end the plot that an author has written themselves into a corner on. And that's really my problem with TAYSCHRENN, is if TAYSCHRENN is a fraction of as powerful as we're told, TAYSCHRENN can just solve most of the problems in the books he's in. And so the contrived ways that TAYSCHRENN doesn't just make him just insufferable. And he's super arrogant. I hate arrogant characters, especially when they don't have anything cool to back them up. So TAYSCHRENN is at the number 3 slot because he's the worst. In the number 2 slot, the only character that is only in Gardens of the Moon on my list, and that's Lady Simtal. Ugh. She's just the worst kind of jackweasel. She betrays Cole and costs him all of his nobility and his holdings, and just is sleeping her way to the top, doesn't have any loyalty to anything. A society where women don't have a ton of political power, so she uses the only power that she has, sleeping with people. And that is just not interesting, and she's despicable, and she doesn't care about anything or anybody except raising her own political status. Well, you don't deserve it, Lady Simtal. You suck, and you get what's coming to you, and it pleases me greatly. There's no way anybody can like Lady Simtal. I know that Erikson wrote her so that she would be hated, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine jumping on Erikson's bandwagon in making me hate Lady Simtal. Totally okay with it. And finally, the worst character in Gardens of the Moon, and arguably one of the worst characters in all of the Malazan series, Krupp. If you like Krupp, I need you in the comments to tell me why. Krupp is insufferable. I don't understand his purpose. I don't understand why he is written the way he is. Krupp and his third person talking, big long monologue speaking that is just all nonsense. And I get that it's theoretically supposed to like throw suspicion off of him that he's the spy master, the eel, but I don't skim books really, but I skim what Krupp says, because it doesn't contain any information. He just is rambling in the third person, being like, oh, and oh, you have come to see generous Krupp stand at the table and drink this wonderful wine under this building, which is built by wondrous hands, by constructors, and oh, look, the nails used of the thing, the nails symbolize the birth of civilization, and it's just like, shut up, Krupp. Shut up. I don't understand his purpose as a character. I don't. And the fact that I have to see him in later books makes it even worse. He's in too much of the book. He's in too much of the book. The parts of the book that he's in don't really serve anything to the plot. I think Erikson thinks Krupp is really funny. I strongly disagree. And anytime I see that Krupp is in the section, you know, there's the POV breaks, and I see that it's a Krupp one, I groan audibly. Ask my wife. Every time I'll go, ugh. She'll be like, is that Krupp? I'm like, I know. So, Krupp is by far the worst character in this book, and that's my list of the 5 best characters and the 5 worst characters from Gardens of the Moon. If your list looks different, by all means, tell me down in the comments what you think. If you disagree with anything that's on my list, tell me that too. Like I said, if you like Krupp, please tell me why. So I'll be doing a top 5 and worst 5 for each Malazan book as I come to these reviews, so I hope you'll check out my other Malazan stuff and my other reviews elsewhere on my channel. But as always, thanks for watching.